Welcome to part 2 of the Cold War Football Manager 2016 experiment. If you haven't watched part 1, it's in the description below or on my channel. Make sure you watch that first so you know what the hell is going on with this experiment. Essentially what we are doing is we're forcing USA and Russia into a modern football Cold War where they're fighting it out to try and become the most dominant nation in world football. And in this part 2 I'm going to holiday another 3 World Cups. So we're going to go up to the end of the 2034 World Cup. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button, it'd be much appreciated. And if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button as well, that'd be great. Apologies for the delay in part 2. I'm still waiting for my new computer to arrive, which is slowing everything down. It really is quite difficult to record on this old one, I'm afraid. And I'm also going to be moving house at some point in the next couple of weeks as well. So it's going to be a busy time in my life over the next few weeks. So don't expect too many videos from me. But once I'm settled down, got my new computer, I'll be trying to get as many up as possible. Anyway, let's get on with part 2. As you can see here on the screen, it's the end of the 2026 World Cup and Mexico managed to win it. They beat Spain in the final on penalties. Really unexpected team to win the World Cup. I mean, if I did an experiment, can Mexico win the World Cup, and did what I did to Russia and USA, they probably wouldn't win the World Cup. But it's funny that without my intervention, they've managed to win the World Cup. You do get the odd shock on Football Manager with a nation you wouldn't expect winning the World Cup, going on and winning it and doing very well. I think they're first in the world rankings because of winning the World Cup. They've done exceptionally well. There's no explanation really, apart from that they've produced a decent team and done very well. I've included CA and PA, current ability, potential ability. A lot of people suggested that in the last video. Thanks for suggesting that. I don't know why I didn't think of doing that before. But as you can see, there's some pretty good players in that team, but there's no one above 180 current ability, which is what I think 175, 180 plus, you would say is a world-class player on this. So they've got a very good team. I mean, a lot of players over 150, and that's a quality player on the game. So they've obviously produced some good players without me having any intervention whatsoever. But I guess we want to see how Russia and USA did in this World Cup. USA were the hosts of the 2026 World Cup, but they didn't get through to the quarterfinal, as you can see there. Second round, however, they did get through, but they lost against Ukraine. Ukraine have done very well on this, actually better than Russia, despite the fact we've obviously had some intervention in Russia and improved the squad, improved the nation as a whole. USA won their Group A, but Russia didn't actually make it to this World Cup, the second successive World Cup that they haven't qualified for. So we'll have a look at them in a second. Let's look at USA first then. Their manager is Caleb Porter, and what I have done is I've changed a couple of things since the last episode, just to have more of an impact and hopefully produce better players. So here you can see I've improved adaptability, ambition. I've improved a few of these things. So generated players should hopefully be a little bit better going forwards. But that's all I've done so far. You can see they're currently 17th in the world after an okay World Cup, getting through to the second round on home soil. They've been really high though, as high as 6th. That was in 2021. So that was in the last experiment. Since the last part, they've been as high as 12th. So we need them to improve quite a bit if they're going to challenge for future World Cups. You can see the MLS currently has a reputation of 3 stars down here. It's still second behind the Mexican First Division. But the teams are still rich. If we look at Orlando City, 3.5-star national reputation, rich finances. They've got good players, but I think the main problem is because of the salary cap in America. Maybe that will hold the Americans back. Perhaps Russia long term will have a better chance of winning the World Cup simply because of the salary cap. If we just go to contract, I mean wage wise, the highest wage for Orlando City, for example, is £5,500. There's just no money really for wages because of that salary cap. So they might be producing good players, but they're all going to leave eventually, I guess, go to other countries. So looking at the American team, you can see here, let's look at the best player in the squad. It's someone with 176 current ability. We've looked at him before, Guillermo Guerrero, who is an insane player. He's got a brilliant international ranking here. 67 goals and 81 caps for USA for the national team. That is really, really good. Really unbelievably good. The best current ability is actually Alan Torres, who's 22, 187 potential ability, current ability of 170, and he currently is playing for Roma. Moved there for 8.5 million. Started at FC Dallas, moved to Mexico, went back to Columbus in USA in the MLS, and then moved back to Mexico before moving to Roma. Hasn't played yet for them because it's actually just the start of the season. But he is an exceptional player, an attacking midfielder, pace, good first touch, brilliant passing and teamwork, creativity, that sort of thing. So he is an exceptional talent. We've got Kevin Acosta again, who's still playing for Real Madrid. Now has 32 goals in 93 games for USA. He's now 28. He's a very good player as well. But they haven't produced as many good players as Russia, but they have so far done better on the world scene. They've qualified for every World Cup. I guess it's easier for them to qualify compared to Russia. Let's go to Russia then and see how they've been getting on and how the domestic scene's going for them. They're 14th in the world. They're actually higher than USA, despite the fact they didn't qualify for the last World Cup. I don't know what is going on with them really in terms of why they're not qualifying. You can see the last World Cup they were at was the one they hosted in 2018. But let's just look down some of the other things. European Championship 2024, they lost it in the second round against rivals Ukraine. England won Euro 2024, 3-0 winning against Holland in the final. Very impressive win there. But Russia have been underperforming considering how strong their team is. If we look at them, they've got really, really good players. Actually, you could argue they are slightly weaker than USA at the moment, but I think general strength in depth, they've got a lot of players over 150, as you can see here. They just don't have a superstar at the moment. The best player is a centre-back, current ability-wise, Chernov, 24-year-old, 172 current ability, and a striker also with 172. This guy, 26-year-old, had potential to reach 181. I'm guessing he won't reach that because of he's now 26. He's playing for Arsenal. Just moved there this season for 16.75 million. Ruben actually made a loss on him. So he's been in Russia, started in Turkey of all places. So he must have gained Russian nationality after moving to Russia and staying there for a number of years. But he's a really, really good player actually. Best potential then is this guy, who's a 19-year-old, currently 147 current ability with 191 potential. He's got 2 caps already. Dmitry Leonov, a wonder kid who is a right winger, brilliant corners, crossing, acceleration, pace, all you want from a winger. And he's currently at Krasnodar, moved there for 9.25 million. Remember, all the Russian teams have a lot of money. Rich, 3-star reputation at Krasnodar. I don't know where the Russian Premier League is now in the world. Let's have a quick look in terms of European rankings actually. So it's a 3.5-star reputation competition. It's moved above the Portuguese Premier League now, which is good to see. You can see the recent winners of the Russian Premier League on the right hand side there. Rubin winning it most recently. They've got 3.5-star reputation, Rich, worth 196 million. So it's going reasonably well for both Russia and USA, but we want to pump them up to that next level. So let's see how they get on in the 2030 World Cup. So the 2030 World Cup was held in England and won by England, 3-1 in the final against Italy. So they've finally won the World Cup again on home soil. That's the only time they're able to win. Jack Harrison with a couple of goals in the final to defeat Italy. 31-year-old striker, 50 goals in 90 games for England. Anyway, that is irrelevant to this. Let's see how Russia and USA did then. Brazil finished third, as you can see there. But let's go back. Third place playoff. Brazil beat Spain. Semi-final, you can see there. Quarter-final. USA got through to the quarter-final. They lost 3-2 against Italy. Alan Torres with the goal and Eduardo Valdez with the other goal, 25-year-old midfielder. So a bit unlucky to lose that one. Let's see how Russia did then. Did they even get through to this World Cup? Yes, they did. They lost 4-1 against Argentina in the second round, coming up against a very strong team. So a bit unfortunate there. But let's have a look at Russia first then, see how they're getting on in the world rankings. They're currently 10th. In the last 4 years, they've dropped as low as 48th, but they have climbed their way back up and currently in 10th place, doing very well. You can see top players there playing for some strong teams. Let's look at the national team then. You can see here the best current ability is 186. It's this guy, Lazarev, striker for Zenit, 25 years old. 1 goal in 5 games. Only played 5 games and scored 1 goal for Russia, despite the fact he is a superstar. He's got a world-class rating there. Lots of potential as well. Next up is this guy, central midfielder, 23 years old, 182 current ability, 197 potential. Has the potential to probably be the best player in the world. We will have a look at World Player of the Year and that sort of thing at the end of this part too, just to see if any Americans or Russians have got in there. But he's an exceptional player as well. They've got lots of strength in depth. You can see there. Only one player is below the 150 current ability mark, and that's a goalkeeper, so their third choice goalkeeper. So they've got a very, very strong team. If you look at caps wise, Yakovlev is the most capped player, 99 caps, 33 goals. He's also the top scorer, the left winger. Let's have a quick look at him. Then he's playing for Arsenal as well. Must be a decent player. Yeah. Very, very good player. He's been at Arsenal for many years, moved on a free in fact. Let's just have a quick look at the Russian Premier League, see who's been winning it the last few years, see if they're still 6th in the European rankings as well. They've been as high as 5th, but they have dropped back down to 6th. You can see here, it's been a mixture of winners, but it's strange to see the likes of CSKA Moscow haven't won it for a few years. Zenit have really dropped off as well. I think they had problems money-wise, but they are rich still, 3.5-star reputation. But they have completely dropped off, and they finished 2nd and 3rd a few times, but it's strange to see them not winning, and CSKA Moscow as well not winning. But there's a lot of strong teams in Russia, we have to admit that. So USA then, 8th in the world. They're actually above Russia at this stage. Brazil are top, but USA so far in this experiment, you must say they've done better. They finished higher, had a higher average world ranking, I would say. They've been as low as 51st, but usually they've been higher than Russia. They've managed to do better at World Cups. They've qualified for every single one and got through to the second round or the quarter-final in the last one. I think they've probably won a few things as well. The Gold Cup, you'd expect them to win every time, and they have actually won it 3 times so far. Mexico and Costa Rica, the other winners. So they've done pretty well in the Gold Cup. I think their fans would expect them to win it every single year though. Confederations Cup, they've qualified a few times, you can see here, but they won the 3rd place playoff in 2021, but since then finished 4th and then got knocked out in Group A in 2029. But World Cup wise, we can see they finished in the group stages the first 2 times, second round, then quarter final. They're making progress. Certainly are making progress. This is the team then. In terms of strength and depth, it's not very good. Russia only have 1 player below 150 current ability. USA only have 3 above 150. How are they doing so well? It's really quite strange. They've still got Alan Torres, the superstar, who is a really, really good player. World-class midfielder, 25 goals in 81 games for America now. And they've still got Guillermo Guerrero at the age of 30, banging in the goals. He's managed to reach 100 goals for America. 100 goals in 126. Second top scorer is this guy, Dave Hoyt. Great name, Dave. He's a winger. And he plays for Man United, who he moved for 10.5 million, but PSG signed him a few years ago for 46.5. He has been around 110 million pounds worth of signings there. He's played for Real Madrid, Leverkusen, PSG, Sporting, and now Man United ahead of the next season. So he's been around the block. Guess a good thing to look at for the future of USA's sake is to look at the youth team. And you can see here, they've got potential, a couple of players over 150, but they really are lacking. But at the same time, they're being more successful than Russia, despite the fact their players aren't as strong. It really is quite strange how they're doing so well compared to Russia. So what I'm doing to just boost USA and Russia again is we're using the in-game editor. to just boost the stats of the two managers. Timothy Chandler in charge of America, I've just made him the best possible manager, basically given him 20 on every single coaching and mental attribute. And we have done the same with Russia. If we just have a quick look at the Russian manager, who is Igor Denisov, he also 20 on everything. Let's see if that has an impact going into the 2034 World Cup. If it doesn't, then we'll have to try something else. I will be doing a part 3. If you've got any suggestions to help boost Russia and America, we don't want to completely change them. We don't want to change the reputation, because that really screws with things. But I've tried to boost them as much as possible without going crazy. We don't want to change every single player and have maximum 199, because there's no point in that. I want to see how the game copes with changing these sort of things, like generated players, changing it to 200. What sort of players can the nation produce with the population it has, with the facilities it currently has? Is it possible in their current format to be able to become a world dominant team? So far they haven't. They've done well. They've certainly gone up the world rankings, both Russia and USA. USA have done slightly better than Russia, despite the fact the MLS is holding back the production of world-class players, I would say. But maybe there's just one more thing I could do to help boost it. So any suggestions, put it in the comment section below. What do you want to see in part 3, basically? So we still haven't seen Russia or USA win the World Cup. It's now end of the 2034 World Cup. We saw Argentina beat Italy 1-0 in the final. Italy unlucky once again. We've seen Spain finish second 3 times and Italy finish second twice. So they've both been pretty unlucky in this experiment. But let's go back. Let's have a look at third place player. For example, Spain beat Holland. And the quarter-final, we didn't see Russia or USA get through to it this time. USA got through to the second round. They lost 3-1 against Spain. So they came up against a very strong team, successful team in this experiment so far. And Russia did get through to the second round. They got through to the same stage this time. They lost 2-0 against Holland, who also got through to the semi-final. So that's a bit unlucky. So they've both done okay. They've managed to get through to the second round with an exceptional manager in Timothy Chandler. Certain things have dropped off, as you would expect. But they're 12th in the world. They've been as high as 5th. That's the highest they've been so far, I think. You can see here they are just one place below Russia, actually. Russia have moved above USA now. Although USA definitely had a bigger drop after the World Cup. I think the MLS is still the same reputation below the Mexican Premier League. Let's just have a quick look. Yep, that's still second. I think the wage cap is holding them back, probably holding back the creation of world-class players as well. If we look at the senior squad, you can see the top player is only got 151 current ability. Keith Adams, a 23-year-old centre-back who plays for Inter Milan. 150 is still a very good player, admittedly, but it's not quite good enough to really challenge at the real top level, getting USA to the quarterfinals, semi-finals of the World Cup or final. Guillermo Guerrero, at the age of 34, is still in the team. Scored 146 goals in 173 games for USA. That is incredible. He's been at Sporting for years and years. Really, really long time. A lot of the players are playing in America, though. That is another problem. They're not leaving. They need to leave to go to Europe, I think, to really develop into top-class players, and that's just not happening. Perhaps we just won't see. America's not going to win the Cold War in this experiment. Like, it's in part 3. That'll probably be the last part, and I'll ask you guys, who do you think's won the Cold War? Like, none, USA or Russia, they may not win the World Cup in this experiment, but I'd say at the moment they've still just about edged it over Russia in terms of achievements. Let's go to Russia. They are slightly higher than America in the world rankings at the moment. They've actually lost their manager that we boosted, though. Thomas Rosicky is in charge, who's definitely not as good. Maybe I'll create or edit another manager to go in charge ahead of the next World Cup. But let me know any suggestions you think I should do in part 3. Put them in the comment section below. So yeah, they're 11th in the world. They've certainly got players playing at bigger teams than the Americans. Looking at their current ability, look at this guy. He's reached 196. Hasn't quite managed to get to that 197 that he was predicted to get to, but Pletnev is an insane player. 8 goals in 58 caps. You'd have thought he'd have a few more by now, considering how good he is. Been at Juventus for a number of years now, moved for 18.75 million. But he is an exceptional player, one of the best in the world. He may even have won World Player of the Year. We'd have to have a look at him. But Russia have produced unbelievably good players. Their worst player is like the 3rd best player in USA at the moment, something like that. But I don't really understand how they're not getting past the second round of the World Cup. What is going on? Why are they not managing to do that? Perhaps they're just unlucky. Some of the best teams in the world that we've seen in world history have never managed to win a World Cup, or been unlucky. A bit like Hungary in the 1950s were insanely good apparently, and they didn't quite manage to win the World Cup, and Holland in the 70s. Anyway, moving on. This is the second best player in Russia, Dmitry Leonov, who has 192 current ability, I think, 19 goals in 59 games, world-class winger, insanely good player. Still at Krasnodar though, who have done very well in this experiment. I think they've won the league a couple of times, so they're doing pretty well with the likes of Leonov playing for them. Will he move to another big team in Europe? I don't know. It'd be great to see Russia attracting players from other European countries. I suppose that's one thing they need to do to get better as a division, but then you could argue that will weaken the national team. A bit like some people say England aren't doing so well now because we've got so many foreign people playing in England, and that's preventing English players from breaking through. But then you could also argue they're getting better because they're playing with better players. So it swings and roundabouts, doesn't it? So World Player of the Year then. Let's have a look, see if there's any Americans in here, or Russians for that matter. You can see the real players still winning it in the early days, as you would expect. Then we saw this guy, a Spanish regen, winning it before Paul Pogba won it in 2028 at the age of 35. Then we saw Malcolm win it, the Brazilian. I don't think we've seen any Russians or Americans in there though. Then this English guy, James Ford, has won it the last 2 years. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Russian, the 196 rated player appearing at some point. This is the best player in the world at the moment. English attacking midfielder for Man City. 27 goals in 55 games for England. And his current ability is 9 that below the Russian. So it's not just about having the best current ability, it's about actually performing on the pitch as well. And obviously James Ford is managing to do that. I'm guessing that the same is for the World Golden Boy. See Martin Odegaard featuring 3rd there at the age of 34. Let's just go down. It would be great to see an American or Russian on this list. Perhaps we will in part 3. I would hope so, because especially with the Russians, they've produced some very, very good players. But they haven't quite managed to feature in this. Maybe they feature in the World Team of the Year in the last couple of years. I wish this showed nationality actually. That'd be easier to see. But you might be able to spot a player in there that we've looked at before, an American or a Russian, if I just go back. If you spot one, then put it in there. Oh yeah, but there we go. Yakovlev. Oh no, that's someone else. He's retired at the age of 34, but he's featured on the list, the Russian, in his last year, I'm guessing, on the game. So that's the end of part 2. Hope you've enjoyed it. Please hit that like button. We've not had any success yet. Perhaps we will in part 3. Let me know if you think there's anything else I can do to boost USA and Russia. Perhaps they will both fail. Perhaps the Cold War will be a bit of a stalemate, and that will be the end of it. I will be doing other countries going forwards as well, and future experiments. For those of you that have been asking me to do that, I will do that, but obviously not at the same time. I'll wait for this one to be finished, and then I'll move on to something else. Anyway, thanks for your patience involving my channel. I'm just taking it a bit easy at the moment as I work for my new computer, as I prepare to move into a new house. But I'm hoping 2016 will be a big year. Thanks for your continued support. I will see you very soon.